Johnny Depp, Narcissist or Empath. Part 16. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and we continue to examine the substantial body of material that has been provided both in terms of the recent trial and past information about Johnny Depp to make an assessment of what he is. It is important, in order to ensure that it is accurate, to take material from as many different places, both favourable and unfavourable, from a variety of different sources, to get a complete picture. Depp, being an older gentleman, and, of course, one who has been famous for quite a long time, has a huge amount of material out there about him, and therefore sifting through all of this is a particularly time-consuming task, but a necessary one. Moreover, the conveyance of this information ought to be done correctly and accurately, hence why we have an extensive number of parts. There's little point doing this if it's not done in detail. We continue to address the drug behaviour of Johnny Depp, as this is instrumental in helping us understand precisely what he is. Depp has struggled with alcoholism and addiction for much of his life. He stated that he began using drugs by taking his mother's nerve pills at the age of 11, was smoking at 12, and at the age of 14 had used every kind of drugs there were. This does show a lack of accountability, demonstrates potential addiction issues, which of course we know manifested, and, as I explained in parts passing, these behaviours that occurred for a young man impacted on him as a mature man. In 1997, Depp acknowledged past abuse of alcohol during the filming of Watts Eating Gilbert Grape. This shows a sense of entitlement to abuse alcohol and a lack of accountability. In a 2008 interview, Depp stated that he'd poisoned himself with alcohol for years. In 2013, Depp declared that he had stopped drinking alcohol, adding that he pretty much got everything he could get out of it. Of course, he did not remain away from alcohol. Does that demonstrate a lack of accountability in terms of a failure to maintain sobriety? Depp said, "I investigated wines and spirits thoroughly, and they investigated me as well, and we found out that we got along beautifully, maybe too well." Does this romanticization of drink show a flippant attitude, a lack of accountability? Regarding his breakup with longtime partner Vanessa Paradis, Depp said that he definitely wasn't going to rely on the drink to ease things or cushion the blow or cushion the situation, because that could have been fatal. According to his ex-wife, Amber Heard, Depp plunged into the depths of paranoia and violence after binging on drugs and alcohol during their relationship between 2013 and 2016. Did he do so because of his addiction? Did he do so because he had no sense of accountability for his behaviours? Or did he do so as a consequence of his reaction to the behaviours that he was experiencing at the hands and mouth of his ex-wife? In a 2018 Rolling Stone profile of Depp, something that we will be coming to shortly, which provides us with a lot of information about Depp's character, reporter Stephen Roderick wrote that Depp had used hash in his presence. That suggests a lack of boundary recognition and a failure to account for behaviours. I described him as alternately hilarious, sly and incoherent. Depp said that his fame has forced him to live the life of a fugitive, with zero anonymity. He said that since the age of 12, he's taken all manner of substances, including marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, LSD, prescription painkillers, opiates, and magic mushrooms. His drug use, he said, was a way to escape family problems, emotional pain, and fame. Now, there is no doubt that he has had family problems. There's no doubt that he's experienced the pain of his upbringing, and there's no doubt that he's famous. But is this simply an excuse that he bandies around, driven by his narcissism through blame shifting, or is it genuine? Depp said he was drinking heavily and was pretty unhealthy, and according to a 1997 interview with Vanity Fair, he was coy when asked if he'd been doing heroin during filming. That suggests that he may well have been doing so. It isn't determinative, but it is a suggestion. And to be taking drugs and those in the scale of heroin whilst filming demonstrates either an individual very much in the grip of addiction or somebody who demonstrates no accountability whatsoever for his behaviours or emotional empathy for those affected by this drug-taking behaviour. Considerable information arose from his failed 2020 libel trial about his behaviour in relation to drug-taking and drinking. During his testimony in that trial, he said he took prescription pills belonging to his mother when he was 11 to numb the pain of living in an unstable home. He said he gave his own daughter, Lily Rose Depp, marijuana when she was just 13. That suggests a rather flippant approach to parenting and a lack of accountability. The actor told the court he appreciated it may look wrong to some, but said, "I was raising a daughter, and I was being a responsible parent as far as I'm concerned." Does this show a rather arrogant attitude to suggest that he was right by being a responsible parent by giving a 13-year-old girl marijuana? Does this show a dismissiveness, a haughty behaviour in terms of behaving in this manner? Also, note he understands that behaviour such as that would be viewed as wrong by other people. It demonstrates a capacity to understand behaviour, to understand the moral criticism, but to continue to do what he wants. Does that demonstrate a sense of entitlement? Depp's private doctor, David Kipper, wrote in notes read out at that trial that Depp romanticizes the entire drug culture and has no accountability for his behaviour. Self-explanatory. He also wrote that while he has friends who have achieved sobriety, Depp pays them lip service and is more interested in their celebrity than their struggle with sobriety. Again, this suggests a lack of accountability. There is also an issue of patience. He is driven almost reflexively by his id. He has no patience for not getting his needs met. An absence of patience is attributable to a haughty behaviour and a sense of entitlement. Kipper also stated he has no understanding of delayed gratification and is quite childlike in his reaction when he doesn't get immediate satisfaction. In response to this, at the time, Depp said Kipper had just met him and wasn't versed in the lives of him and his ex-wife when he wrote the notes. Kipper is an expert in the treatments of addictive disorders and a member of the California Society of Addiction Medicine and the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Is Depp's response an accurate one to say he didn't really know me? Or again, is this deflection and blame-shifting? The fact that Kipper's comments about him are critical, is it perhaps that his narcissism causes him to reject that in that manner? During the 2020 trial, Depp conceded that throughout his life he'd been blacked out on many occasions where he did not remember his conduct. Lack of accountability. He was questioned back then by the Sun's lawyer, Sasha Vass, who asked him about an occasion where he'd blooded his knuckles by punching a wall, exhibition of violence, on September the 22nd in 2014. There are times when you don't even remember the conduct that you were responsible for. You blacked out on many, many occasions, Vass said. There were blackouts for sure, but in any blackout there are snippets of memory, Depp claimed. During 2014, Depp was sometimes publicly out of control, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. But is it driven by narcissism or drugs? As he nurtured a private life that imitated many of the characters he played on screen. At the 2014 Hollywood Film Awards, Depp was noticeably drunk and slurred his speech, presenting the Legend Award to documentary filmmaker Shep Gordon. When asked about this in court during the libel trial of 2020, Depp denied he was drunk, denial, saying he was under the influence of many medications. Blame-shifting. I don't feel ashamed of that moment because that's a sickly man, a drug addict, who was coming off a very unpleasant medication, and I was not prepared to go out and give that award show. However, they had asked me, and it was my duty to do so, so I carried it through. Does this show accountability in undertaking the award show even though he didn't want to do it? Or might it be argued that there was no accountability by turning up where he was drunk? In the same year, Depp and Heard took a trip to his private island in the Bahamas so Depp could detox from the opiate roxicodone, or Roxys. During the trip, Depp claimed that Heard did one of the cruelest things that she's ever done by withholding drugs from him, saying it left him sobbing like a child on the floor. Is this an absence of accountability and a pity play? Or, quite simply, the response of an addict denied the thing that he feels that he needs? The lawyer for the Sun at the time presented a different angle, saying that Heard had essentially had to act as Depp's nurse, while the nursing staff were on the opposite side of the island giving her instructions. The idea of a detoxification process is that you come off drugs, Vass told the court. Heard was withholding drugs that you were not supposed to have. Depp asked, why would she have the drugs that I was not supposed to have? A fair observation, but also might be seen as deflection. A photo from before the trip to the Bahamas was also released to the court back in 2020, showing Depp nodded out on opiates with a tub of ice cream dripping on his jeans. Depp admitted that he was on the nod after taking opiates, but said he'd also been working long days before boarding a flight. Use of the truth, or blame shifting through deflection. I was preparing to go to the Bahamas to detox from the opiates, and I'd been working 17 hours a day prior to that. She asked me to hold her tub of ice cream. I have my right hand in my pocket and I'm holding the ice cream in the other. I was obviously on the nod and very tired, falling asleep, and the ice cream then spilled all over my leg, and then she took that and showed me the next day and said, look at what you've become. Look at you. It's pathetic. Heard claimed Depp on the flight had drunk heavily and had thrown items at her and pushed a chair at her, slapped her and kicked her and passed out in the flight bathroom. Another photo released to the court shows Depp in a hotel room passed out, fully clothed in the corner next to his bed. Depp dismissed the claim he'd passed out at the 2020 libel trial, pointing out that he had a pillow with him. In all of this, is there a failure to recognise the problems that he has as a drug addict, and therefore shows deflection and an absence of accountability? Other professionals have criticised Depp, including an executive from his days working on Pirates of the Caribbean. Former Disney executive Nina Jacobson said she found Depp's performances pretty out there. She said his performances in the dailies came back in haphazard quality with a character that was drunken and fey. She said the final performance seen on screen was one thing, but the dailies, what you're sculpting from, is some pretty big stuff. I started to sweat a little and worry like, are we going to be okay, she said. Does this again demonstrate a failure to be accountable in terms of not behaving in an appropriate fashion? Jacobson said the films worked in the end, but she found the experience of working with Depp scary. As an executive, you've got to watch the bottom line, and it's scary. Jacobson made the comments after Depp gave an interview to GQ, saying he'd dismissed her comments after she criticised his performance and asked Depp if the character was gay. Again, we're seeing the consequences of his behaviours through the taking of drugs and alcohol. Is this a narcissist who quite simply does not accept any accountability for his behaviours and each time comes up with an excuse when it's pointed out to him? Or is it quite simply that he's not a narcissist and he's an addict and he's something else? A different character of person from narcissist that has an addiction, and it's solely the addiction that is creating these problems, which could look like the behaviour of a narcissist. Looking at the evidence in the round, in the whole, will enable us to make that determination. Finally, let us consider the position of the friendship that he has with Marilyn Manson. Depp's friendship with Marilyn Manson dates back to the 90s, when Depp was a young star on the rise. Manson, an established musician known for his outrageous stage performances and over-the-top black and white makeup, has frequently been in the headlines, and he and Depp quickly bonded. During the early years of their friendship, the two stars gave each other various gifts, including a house that Depp bought for Manson. Is this bribery and an assertion of control in so doing, or, quite simply, generosity, driven by his emotional empathy for other people? When Depp started a family, he asked Manson to be the godfather of his daughter Lily Rose Depp. The stars even have matching tattoos, which Manson described to Rolling Stone as art featuring Charles Baudelaire, the flowers of evil, this giant skeleton thing on their backs. and the phrase "no reason" on their wrists. Depp was asked by Heard's lawyer about his drug use with Manson, with the intention of further delving into the actor's history with substance abuse. "We drank together, we've had cocaine together maybe a couple of times," Depp said. Heard's lawyer then asked if pills were involved, and Depp replied with a chuckle, "I once gave Marilyn Manson a pill so that he would stop talking so much." Laughing about the admission of drugging somebody, does that demonstrate a sense of entitlement and absence of emotional empathy? Does it also demonstrate a lack of accountability for his behaviours? You can make that decision. The pattern of drug taking, the responses to it, and the interaction it has with regard to the other disorders that Depp has been analysed as having provides us with considerable insight and continues to build a picture of this complex individual. We're now going to turn, in the next part, to a 2018 Rolling Stone magazine interview, because this tells us more about the character of Depp, both in terms of the things that were happening in his life at that moment, but also how he presented in the interview to the interviewer. Join me there.